Good morning. Happy Sunday. I hope you all well. Thank you for joining me for another Sunday. So why don't we take a moment and collect ourselves? So it's important to take moments in our lives to kind of catch our breath and to stop the momentum that we have and to sort of touch in and connect to the stillness that we have within us. The speeds we have in our actions, our desires to do things, the list of things we wish to accomplish for the day or for the next 30 minutes, keeps us from being able to connect to a wisdom that we have deep within us. So we learn to stop, to cut the momentum, so we can drop into a deeper current that lies within our lives. So we're going to slow down. So feeling the breath in your body. Breathing becomes lighter. Hopefully we feel our minds calming down. So if people are in front of their altars, after you collect yourself, then you mindfully start engaging with it. It's important to take moments so we can mindfully engage with our lives. In a way, the practices that we do at home in controlled environments is training on how we go about doing things in a new way in our lives. So when you approach the sacred, the divine, and our prayer space is a representation of that, and as we pray over it and we connect with it with our hearts and our devotion, it will accumulate a certain energy. And by slowing down, we show respect to God, because it's become sacred by the objects and by the care we have shown with it. And even though we can't be in front of God Himself, we are in front of a representation of that. We are not creating any idols. We are merely created a space that our hearts can connect with, so our conscious and subconscious minds and our devotion has a place where it could express itself. a place where we can direct our prayers. But it's not the prayers to the objects. There was a little concern about that. But what the objects represent. So when we pray, we're not praying to our altar, we're praying to God. The altar puts us in a frame of mind, in an energy, so we can connect deeper with God. Because God connects with us now through what we call His Holy Spirit, the energetic manifestation of a frequency of God that we can tap into, that Wi-Fi. And it helps us tune into it when we find more quiet and peace, and we learn to calm our minds. So we create a space where our phones are on mute. Better than that, it's on Do Not Disturb. The house is quiet. We feel comfortable. We have water. If we need to calm, we're drinking some chamomile tea, if our minds tend to be more spacious. More aggravated. If we're drowsy, maybe we have a little caffeinated tea. I love green tea when I meditate. Green tea is very healthy, and it has a little caffeine kick, a tein kick. So you don't want to be too sleepy, you don't want to be too agitated, because you want to be able to engage. In a way, you're creating a miniature temple or a miniature church within your space, in your home. And that's always existed throughout history, where people have created a space where it's devoted to God. We've allowed God to have a space in our home where we go to direct ourselves towards Him. In the same way, we create our space in our hearts for God to live. And with learning new ways of being, for those who already don't do this, we learn to bring God into our lives, into everything we do, that they're in keeping with a level of morality and ethics that is in keeping with our religion. And we learn to tap into our hearts and the place that God dwells within us, because He does dwell within all of us. That is a fact. Take my word for it. And by learning to tap into this, we're able to know intuitively how we should act in any given situation. At the very least, what's right, what's wrong. Even if they're very, very difficult choices, the morality and ethics of the situation is complex. We know with a capital K. It's knowing. It's a beyond a thought. It's just a you know. And sometimes it's hard to articulate. But if you go through it with your mind, using your mind, and you go through the factors and you analyze, do you see the difference between a knowing and the mind? Mind's a movement of energy, of conscious thought, of working with our computer. The knowing just knows. But it's important to double check. And so you use your mind until you get comfort that your knowing is accurate. So you go through all the little things and maybe do some research in religion or ask a friend, and you see with time that your knowing does line up. Or right after the fact, you just quickly use your mind. Or you use your mind and then you take that moment of breath and you sort of lean back just slightly energetically in your body and slightly physically. And you take that moment to see, does this feel right? Our bodies hold a lot of knowledge. We can feel, does this feel right? Now, a lot of people sort of say that nowadays, and there's a lot of crazy because their sense of right and wrong is really off. And that's why it's important to practice at home, to still the mind and sort of take the time to step back. Calm our energies, calm our minds, allow energies and thoughts which have accumulated over time that are off, that are a little crazy when we look back at it, and weren't right when we see that the decisions were not correct, or they led to repercussions that were really off. And that exists with all of us. But we learn to heal, and we learn to straighten our energies, redirect them, straighten our energetic pathways in our body, which heals our minds, and then our gut feelings come through our bodies accurately. The inner knowing of what's correct, or that inner knowing of God, that fellowship and companionship we have inside, always gives accurate knowledge and feeling sense, even psychic direction. But because we have so many layers from our lives of doubt of ourselves, the difficulties we've experienced, abuse, challenges, fears of not being successful, fears of making the wrong decision, fears of whatever layers we've built, which are so normal and just part of our existence, they create a little distortion field, a little how to put it. We have 20/20 vision inside of us, perfect seeing. Actually, let's just say 15/20, better than perfect vision. But the things in our lives is like wearing glasses when you don't need to. You see clearly, but you put on glasses, and then you don't see clearly. Everything becomes blurry. So it's not that inside it's not accurate. It's because our lives have created blurriness. The wisdom that we like, I know what to do, and it comes off sideways. It's because there's that lens, those propensities, those, how to put it, those, that momentum, a way of seeing, a way of reacting, not acting, but you're reacting. Like a doctor hitting your knee and your leg suddenly shoots out is a reaction. You don't have control. That's the lens in front of God's Spirit within us, which creates an inaccuracy. So we're learning to slow down so we can release that. Release that momentum. Because unlike a lens that is solid and fixed, that causes information to become, let's say, corrupted, what's going on within us, those layers, isn't fixed. It's an energy. Thoughts are energy. Desires are energy. Everything we've experienced in the past is locked within us as energies. Like a nightmare, right? That's very dense energy. Anger, dense energy. Desire, like, it's fine to have desire. Desire to have food on the table. Desire to have a loving companionship. Without desire, there's no life. There's a problem with your lower chakras if you don't have desire. It's important. But the desire, I have to have this. Oh, I need more wealth. I'm not happy with my spouse. I want this. I want a Prince Charming, however unrealistic that might be. And you need, I have this, now I want this. Desire that's out of control. Anger can be wise. You're abused, right? You have anger. Well, that's a natural reaction saying this situation's wrong. It's an alarm. It's a very powerful emotion saying something's crossed the line here. Now, maybe it's not best to act out on it, or maybe there needs to be that verbal confrontation if it's safe to create that barrier to the other person, that crossing that line, don't disrespect me, which has wisdom, or realize that won't work. So how do we know how to proceed? Nothing wrong with emotions. It's when they're out of balance. And that's an energy. So at the core, to tap into God, which is both outside of us, but lives within us, and at the very basis of ourselves. I just kind of skimmed, and I should read it, a very interesting article that scientists are saying today that consciousness may be in everything. The cells, the universe itself might be conscious. They saw that the patterns of the stars reflect the neurons in the brain. And it's kind of what I've been saying from a religious point of view, from very old teachings, ancient teachings, that everything is conscious. Divine consciousness. Now, scientists won't say the D word, but it's divine. At our core, we are 24 karat gold within us. Doesn't mean we say, I'm 24 karat gold. Unless you're completely perfected, that gold, that nugget in us, needs to be mined, needs to be excavated, so that energy, which is covered with dirt of our lives, of our family's mitzvah, karma, of our society's issues, everything starts coming out, so that vibration of the gold emanates from us, informs our beings. It's replaced with something else, something pure, something of a higher vibration. You see? It's organic change. Our minds make a decision to apply ourselves in this way, to walk down this path. And why does our minds decide? Because we feel we should look into this. And there's great wisdom in that. We use our minds to make sure it's kosher. Our bodies feel, this might be good. He's not off. There's a lot of makes sense. He's not imposing anything on me. He wants nothing from me. There's no manipulation here. And that's a felt sense, but you also use your mind to see, is that also this way? But you see, your mind is calm, so you can have clear seeing. Your heart has a sense to a deeper divine sanity that lives within. There's a traditional Eastern story, which I should have reviewed before saying it, but often I just know the general topics of what I want to say, and then it sort of comes out. But there's a very poor person who lives in a shack. He has a dirt floor, and he thinks he's very poor. But little does he know that right under the space where he sleeps every night, there's a massive golden nugget. And he's actually extremely rich, but he doesn't know the nugget, actually maybe the gold stone, is there. And he doesn't know to dig under where he sleeps to find it, and to realize that in fact he's quite rich. And that's a story, sort of all of us. We have a deep richness within us, but many people don't know it. Sadly, so many people are caught up in their lives, they don't even realize that they're missing that connection, and a lot of people are dissatisfied. There's this uneasiness, never satisfied, and this sort of desire to continue the momentum, so they don't realize how they feel inside, and never develop that sense of, hold on, I think there's something more. There's something more here going on. And then you learn to excavate, to go below all those lenses and distortions within us, and then tap into an energy that supports, that radiates love, calm and peace, which increases our vibration. And those aspects in our lives that are lower vibration, they sort of fall away to be replaced with things that might be more nurturing and helpful, and new ways of being, of eating, thoughts of maybe exercising more to calm our minds, make our body more healthy and aligned, so we can better connect with that Wi-Fi. How does that feel in your body, what I just said? Take a couple breaths, just doesn't have to be heavy or forced, just how does that feel within you? A lot of that sense feels a lot around the heart center, but it could feel through your whole body. And then we also use our minds. How does that feel to our minds, what I just said? Does it make sense? Is it logical? We always do everything with our eyes open. Sometimes there does need to be a leap of faith, because our minds could only understand so much. But often, 95% of the time, you don't need a leap of faith, because you're able to analyze it or try it a little bit and see what happens. We wish to connect. We wish to find different ways of living with more satisfaction and happiness. Everybody wants happiness. Everybody wants to feel good. And that's great. Everybody should have happiness. Everybody should feel good. Can you imagine how much better this world would be? You feel that, then you want to share it, and you treat everybody better. You see? Those are good emotions. Emotions aren't bad. There's good emotions. There's a lot of wisdom in them. How do we go about it? There's a lot of teachings of theory and thoughts and logically what we're doing. But that's of the mind. Great and wonderful. God knows I love to study things. I'm very intellectual. But I've had to learn to let that go, partially, so I can start experiencing what the teachings show, what the teachings point to, what my teachers have experienced, and what they're trying to show. I can point at something 20 different ways, as I'm sure you've noticed by now. I can describe it. I can give you little tastes of it. I can point to it in different ways. But ultimately, we all have to experience it for ourselves. We learn gradually to live there more and more. Why? Because it's our birthright. It's the factory setting. It's the energy of where we came from, and God willing of ourselves, because we've made the decisions and conduct in our lives, and with God's grace, we will return there when our time has come, and our bodies and our minds will return to the earth where they've come from. But that 24-karat gold within us, that energy of divine consciousness, the Holy Spirit, our souls are not made of this earth, and that will go up, God willing. Because the higher frequencies contain the compassion, the love, the wisdom, right action, right thought, proper everything is naturally baked into us. So we become archaeologists with ourselves, and we learn to uncover under our beds, under our bodies, to those energies that are pure. God is within us. Listen very carefully, please, to what I'm going to say, because there's a lot of confusion in this world about what I'm about to say. The truth is, in the state that we are in, we are not God. How does our behavior and the way we live our lives equate with God? That thought has a lot of ego. And with that thought, you don't care how your actions affect other people. Is that clear? Because I hear it all the time. People think, one person said to me once, you are a background actor to my life. First thing, this life is serious. It's not just some play to brush off. There are consequences to our actions that could hurt other people. We can't, the path of uncovering the 24-karat gold is the path to decide to let go of parts of ourselves that are not real, in the sense they're not based in truth. The truth is the pure aspects of ourselves, how we choose or wish to see ourselves. I mean, I'm sure very few people is happy to see themselves as violent, abusive, angry, never satisfied, right? They're not happy inside, right? How do we choose to see ourselves? Loving, kind, charitable, I'm a good person. People go through extraordinary means, some of them, to fool themselves into believing they're good people, that their actions are justified somehow, so they don't feel bad. So that shows there's an innate goodness in us. We choose to see ourselves how we think is the underground way of being. And to do that is to relax. We have to sort of drop into that space. We learn to descend energetically as we excavate, as we remove those layers of fog It's basically energetic fog. Little thunderstorms we have within us. And by doing that, we're cleaning our pot, our bodies. So there's room for something else to fill it. We've all seen the movies where a master takes, often it's a cup of tea, and keeps pouring it till it overflows the cup. And the student says, "Stop, stop. You're overflowing the cup." And then the master says something along these lines. "Well, that's you. You're so full, there's no room for the tea that I'm trying to pour in. There's no room within us to have new ways of thinking, to pour in new tea, because our cup's already full. If we have cups of water and we wish to pour in tea or medicine or something, there's no room for it to go into the container. And it's not so much we need to pour in from the outside, though new ways of action and thinking, it's helpful. Somebody shows us a new way of being. But we empty the cup by going inwards. We empty our own cups. We do our own work. And we realized a lot of the things, and this is for me too, mind you, I'm still doing my work. We're always doing our work. It never, is always things we learn to release. The water naturally evaporates, and water naturally drains. It's like a battery. Our body's a battery. A battery can't hold its charge. Nowadays, batteries, they last on the shelf for 10 years. Well, try after 12, 15 years to plug it in. It's flat. So with our bodies, all these energies can't stay in unless we keep charging them by our actions, by our thoughts, by the way we normally do things. Why does our body keep trying to naturally, it radiates out? Because it's not normal to us. If it were, there'd be no problem, right? It would stay within us, all these horrible things. I guess it is a problem, right? But our bodies naturally sense to be more open and clear. Why? Because our bodies are meant to radiate out that goodness within us, not to trap things within it, which cover up the goodness within us. There's another analogy. You put water with dirt in a jar, you seal it, right? Shake it all up. It's cloudy. You can't see anything. Doesn't even look like water, and you can't see through it. It becomes very, very murky, right? As the water becomes still, the dirt falls to the bottom. And then you can see through it. If you look down, it's clear. Lake Tahoe in California is extremely, it's a very deep lake, but you can see all the way to the bottom because there's no dirt in it. And by calming ourselves, we're able to feel in a deeper way and connect with that core of divinity that's within us. we pray, we read, we go to sacred sites to pray, to be around sacred energies. We try to create those energies in our altar. So we get that blessing and that energy that helps to still ourselves, so the things we've accumulated sort of drop out. And with that clarity, the static that keeps the Wi-Fi signal from coming through us to being able to connect with it, that wall that goes from a 5-bar signal and makes it 2 bars, even though the Wi-Fi router is in the next room. We all know what that's like, right? That wall just falls away. And is our router outside of us? Is it inside of us? Is it both? Doesn't matter. What matters is we connect with Him. And with that comes joy and happiness that's not dependent on things from outside of us. That's a talk for another day. Let's take a minute or two to let's just rest with that, because it's so important. What I've said. It's the conceptual reality of who we are, how we're walking this planet, and what's going on with us. Our bodies, our mind. It's the human condition. There's nothing to judge there, good or bad. That's not helpful. It's just to see, okay, this is how our energy is made, how our bodies are made, how our thoughts and minds are made. And then you work with it. Because our ancient traditions show us how to do it from a time in human history where these teachings had an environment that was better for them to be learned and studied, where there were more priests, castes that were purer, connecting to a source that gave rise to these teachings. They were isolated. They were just looking for this. And the knowledge is there. The decision is, do we choose to apply it in our lives? And that's a choice. And then we use our will, so that feeling desire to do something from our bodies or our minds, and we do it, which is a conscious decision, using more of our minds to make sure we take the time. to change the steering wheel in our cars and point our cars in a different direction. And right now, this summer, let's make the direction of trying to find more stillness. So all the sort of obscurations, the dirt, the lenses, dirt's not dirty. It has nutrients. It's not good or bad. But it blocks our ability to see. And it's supposed to be on the ground, not making us unable to see. Dust isn't good, but dirt on the ground is where it belongs. So we learn to rest our minds and our thoughts and our energies, so we can start seeing and feeling in the way that's our birthright, that's our factory setting, the way that was intended. The way it existed in the Garden of Eden, the way it exists in heaven. Heaven can exist within us, even while we're here. And then as we act and live from that space, we put that energy out in our planet. And slowly, if only in our lives or with the people around us, we make that space more heaven-like. Because that energy that emanates from us goes out into our environment, into our lives, into our choices, into what we say and what we do. So let's take a moment. I guess I just launched into this. Let's step back. Connect with your shrines if you're in front of it. If not, just lean back and just find the stillness. Let's work with stillness a little bit here. Glasses of water are very refreshing when you pray or meditate or find the stillness, because water actually cools your body and cools the mind. Not too cold, but fresh water, sort of a fresh glass, slightly cool. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're just trying to cool off the heat that's in our body so we can rest. That momentum of running around our lives, non-stop thoughts, non-stop music or TV. Even at the beach, people listen to music. When they're hiking, people talk non-stop. They can't hike by themselves, or they can't walk as a group without talking. They can't experience fully what's around them, see it fully, hear it fully, feel it, because their thoughts and their words, they're in another place. I've done a lot of hiking. I go on, it's hard to find quiet because there's always people around and they talk loud and everyone is talking. Where's the stillness ever? You go there to be around nature and its beauty and to find calm, but people bring their energy to it, their noise, their talk, their movement, their music. And then there's no space for all that to take the container off, the lid off their body, for some of what they've accumulated to evaporate away, to drain away. So let's take a moment and drain some of that away, shall we? So we should try to work on doing things mindfully, with intent. So resonate with your shrine, your altar. Try to feel its energy. Connect with God. And then when you feel that sense of devotion, of love, of connection, or if you're still new to it and you don't feel it, you just take a moment to being respectfully in front of it, and then you light the candle with a prayer that God would decide to be present. Or if you're not religious, you light it with the intention that everything that's good and holy become present in that space. And then you light your incense, hold it up above your head, and then bow a little bit to what you've asked to come there. And then you place the incense and you look over this energetic space that you're in front of, that you've created, that you've decided to take time to sit in front of, that incense and that candle of purity, of consciousness, wisdom, wholeness, compassion, love, wisdom of God. And you sit quietly in front of it and just try to relax and relax and relax and just try to be in the presence. Notice we haven't said the name of God yet. We're just in the presence and working with that sanity, basic sanity within us. And trying to resonate with that 24 karat gold stone nugget within us. So we just relax and try to feel. Take a moment here. as you're doing this on your own during the week, and hopefully the weeks and months to come, you can spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes doing this, of being in the calm, or longer. And if a sense of love and devotion to God comes up, that's pure. And so you don't push that away. If it comes, you can pray. You can bow to God. You can offer up more incense to God. And it becomes a place of prayer. And that has a great blessing. But even there, if you notice in your body, that has stillness in it. You've calmed down, and you're now beginning to experience the energies that are always there with us. We're learning to tap into them by doing things outside of ourselves, by our actions, and creating and putting ourselves in environments. And the energy emanates from the outside, from what we see, hear, and smell. But when we feel it, then that's inside of us. And we're educating ourselves as to what that frequency feels like. See, I can describe all I want what chocolate or strawberry or vanilla ice cream tastes like. But you only really know if you taste from it. And by taking the time out of our busy days and weeks to go to a space where we can calmly sort of train ourselves to a new way of being, we get those tastes. We release what we need to release. We heal what needs to be healed. We make our pathways straighter, not less knotted up or bundled or blocked. We let go of things that don't serve us, our thoughts, our past, motivations that aren't the best, reactions as opposed to actions that are more conscious and intended. And we learn to connect here and change ourselves, to transmute ourselves, so we can go back into our lives in a different way. This is our training pool. Calm place. Not too deep. Safe place where we learn on our own speed. And then we bring it out into our lives. And when we learn to swim, it doesn't matter how deep the pool is, because we can swim. And it doesn't matter if it's a river or the ocean, because we know how to swim. And we have the wisdom to know if there's a massive storm or it ain't safe, to maybe we don't engage with that and we decide to be on the shore, because we learn how to swim on the shore and realize we don't always need to be waiting to be swimming in everything we encounter. We have wisdom to know when to engage and when to realize the water is full of bacteria. Let me just say it, full of shit. It ain't smart to go there, because we'll just not end up smelling so good or doing things that are let me just say it, shitty. And we learn to behave differently, and we learn how to interact differently. And as we do that, the vibrations in our body change, because we're changing the direction of what we're encountering, what we're engaging with. We encountered and engage with different frequencies, so naturally our body becomes fuller with those frequencies. And those frequencies we no longer encounter leave us. Might be slowly, we might need therapy, acupuncture, meditation, yoga, prayer, but eventually the body and ourselves, we learn to release. We're investing in ourselves because there's a great satisfaction that can be found within ourselves. We can travel the whole world, the whole universe, but ultimately the journey that really counts, the journey that is the most fulfilling, the journey that's the most amazing, is the one we do within ourselves, because that's the journey that truly leads us home, with a capital H. So, as we go about our summer, I'd like to invite you all to take those moments to find the quiet, to reflect, to be still. It could be a walk in the morning because you've set your alarm a little earlier and you've gone to sleep a little earlier so you can get up earlier when it's quiet in the morning, and take that walk to calm down. To find a quiet spot, or do your cardio with no music in your ears. It takes practice. It's not easy. To go when it's quieter at the gym. To decide to go to the beach by yourself. Or to go with friends and say, you know what, I need an hour by myself, and you move your towel to a place in the beach that's very quiet. So you can have the time to encounter space and quiet, to cool off, to calm down, to connect with aspects of yourself that's deeper, to stretch and meditate at the beach, to go in the water, if you know how to swim, to, if the ocean is salty, to bathe so the salt is all over your body, which helps the body release energy. Baths with Epsom salts help the body release energy. It cools the body. Sitting in the sun and feeling a cool breeze cools us, it relaxes us, and it allows us to drop in, drop under the currents in our body, to allow the sediments to settle. See, it doesn't all need to be very complex. We just somehow need to alter, change the way we go about things, and to create a little space to do things a little differently, to make time to be still, to decide to spend 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes or 40 minutes a day in a quiet space, even if you have to get up earlier or stay up a little later when the house is more quiet, to make that choice as opposed to watching TV, to take that time to release and make those changes. And it's hard at the beginning. It is. That 5 minutes could seem like an hour and a half. But let me tell you very quickly, that 5 minutes becomes 10, 15, 30 minutes. And it's not so painful to do it. And that change happens over the course of just a couple weeks. Even a week or two. By 3 weeks, you could be doing it 40 minutes. And let me tell you, you look forward to it. It becomes the highlight of your week. Why? Because as you tap in deeper, it feels so magical in the sense that you start experiencing a deeper way of living that you never thought was possible. A way of living that you've only read in books or people that have done it before you speak about, and you realize, oh my God, this is real. And to encourage everyone, something quite extraordinary happens to us when we pass the 35, 40-minute mark. The brain just flops. It can't handle it. Can't. And when it flops, which I mean just turns off, just sort of gets that error 4 and 4, which is good, and as it sort of tries to reboot, but it can't, then you start seeing what's there. And it's calm, and it's peaceful, and you realize how much tension you're holding, and you just release it, and you feel relief. Relief. And often I'm like, oh my God, I was holding that. Oh my God, I didn't even realize that. Oh my God. And then you feel such gratitude for the practice. And then you really see the importance of doing it. And then you start looking forward to it. The beginning of the tension you feel when you're trying to relax into a space and the inclination to stop, you could even feel tension in your body that it's just hard to stand still. That's normal. It somehow releases between the 15 and the 20-minute mark. You will feel it. It'll just be like, oh my God. And often I just literally move forward with the relief. Like literally, if I'm in a meditation posture, my whole upper body will just move forward till it's like even with the ground. I'm a little flexible that way, just from the release of the energy. And then it's really easy after you pass that little benchmark to make it to 20, 30, 40 minutes, hours, days. Well, I mean, not at the same time, but you can keep that space. It takes practice. It's yoga. It's meditative yoga. It's a whole other thing. But that opens that world to you if you choose to go deeper in that way. But ultimately, you just need that 25, 30, 40 minutes. Just to find that place where you release it around 14, 17 minutes is kind of when I hit that spot. And even for 10 minutes after that, boy, that changes your life if you do it regularly. And you see, by lighting your shrine and putting up the candle and feeling that connection with God, you don't even need to say a name there. You've energetically connected with the name in your heart. That energy that comes from the name has become closer to you. And of course, you could ask God to come in and bless your practice as you just do it. This is more of a meditative way I'm describing to release and uncover who we are deep within ourselves. And it's whole, and it's divine, and it's healed. It's the layers on top that can be problematic. But those layers are not who we are. To use an Eastern term, the obscurations, they hide what we are underneath. And ultimately, when we leave this planet and go to heaven, hopefully, all those layers just slip away. They remain here, they dissolve, and the pure parts of ourselves, they lift. But they're here with us now. The heart of God lives with us now, today. Always was with us, and forever will be with us. It's the basis of who and what we are. The decision is, the question for us is, do we choose to uncover it and to live from that blessed place? It's really the biggest question of our lives, isn't it? So take time, pray over it. Take time this week to do this practice, so practice as you feel called to. Take those walks. Jog without music, or have a quiet music, just enough to keep your momentum going. But feel the calmness after you walk or jog. Those endorphins quiet the mind, to heal. You see, you can find it by doing things skillfully in a different way, and realize that those doors to lead to that place within us is available in so many different ways. So thank you for joining me this week. I hope this helps you all. I know it helps me, and I need to find more of that quiet place within me. There are practices on doing it in different ways that I practice, but it's important for me to go back to doing it in this way, because there's just so much beautiful and powerful ways, and ultimately it's ground zero on how to really connect in a powerful and even quick way. I posted earlier this week the first of the 12 sessions from the sort of winter intensive that we did. And I'll post 1 or 2 more this coming week until they're all done. So probably another 5 or 6 weeks of posting them during the week. You know, if it's a lot or you want to focus more on practicing, you don't have to listen to them right now. But they're put out there to be available. But interestingly enough, a lot of it's the similar topic of what I speak on now, but in a different way. So I actually think all of this will be helpful if you have the time keep the time to try to taste that ice cream. What is the vanilla, the chocolate, or the strawberry that I'm pointing to? The encouragement that I'm trying to give out for people to take that taste, to connect with that aspect of ourselves, the best aspects of ourselves, that contains all the virtues and the love and compassion. So be sure to take the time. Don't let the teachings keep you, the teachings that I'm putting out this week and the following weeks during the week, to overwhelm you with so many teachings that you don't take the time. The most important thing is to take the time to feel it for yourself, to get the taste for yourself, because that is where the change starts happening. So my dear friends, thank you so much for joining me this week. It's always a deep pleasure and honor. It's truly the highlight of my week. It makes me so happy when at the end of what I share, that it feels good to me, that it came out properly, and that it may bless you all. And that just makes me so happy. May you, your week, and yourselves and your families, and all that surrounds you, your pets, everything, be blessed, be whole, and walk in God's love and grace. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.